Alright, hi guys, how's it going? I'm back here today with another video. And what I want to do a video on today is a movie review. And this is because I saw a movie last night that I've seen before, but a movie that I do like, and that is Taxi Driver. Now, Quentin Tarantino has called Taxi Driver the best character study ever committed to film, and I would have to agree with him. I definitely think that Taxi Driver really is a great character study, and before Breaking Bad came out, I think it was the best character study that you ever saw on film. Now, there is some similarities between Taxi Driver and Breaking Bad, because they both deal with a character who changes throughout the course of the film, or in the case of Breaking Bad, the series. The character goes through changes, so the character in the beginning of the film is different from the character at the end. You don't see that a whole lot, but you do have that in Taxi Driver. You see that with the Robert De Niro character. He definitely goes through changes. Now, just a little bit of a background information on the film. This film came out in 1976. It's a Martin Scorsese film. It stars Robert De Niro as the main character, Travis Bickle. You also have Sybil Shepherd in the film, Jodie Foster, and Peter Boyle. But, yeah, definitely, do see the character going through a lot of different changes. The character, Travis Bickle, played by Robert De Niro, gets a job as a cab driver. And he's a Vietnam vet. He might have post-traumatic stress disorder, although the film does not explore that, so you really don't know. But he gets a job as a cab driver, and he's driving around the city, seeing different things, seeing all the pimps, prostitutes, drug dealers on the streets, and all this stuff is causing him to become kind of mentally unhinged because he's taking all this stuff in. Now, in this film, there are two real major themes, too. One of them is moral decay, because in the 1970s, you started hearing people talk about moral decay in society, how things were changing. The crime rate was way up. In addition to that, you had high unemployment that was way up. You also had problems going on in the Middle East as well. Now, some of these issues are still issues today as well. But you really started to hear people talk about these sorts of things back in the 1970s. How society was really going to hell in a handbasket, and, what can we do? You really started to hear a lot of that kind of talk at that time. Now, the other major theme that you have going on in this film is sort of that film of like isolation and feeling alone, even though you're in a huge city. And that's what you have here. The character Travis Bickle really feels alone and isolated, even though he's in a huge city, New York. So, you do have that. Now, character, Robert De Niro, is, driving his cab around. He frequently drives past this campaign headquarters where there's a woman campaigning for a politician who I believe is going to run for president. The woman's played by Sybil Shepherd, and Robert De Niro is drawn to this woman. He goes in, he asks her out, and ultimately he ends up getting rejected by this woman, and that causes him to become even more mentally unhinged. And that's kind of what you see with characters like this who, will sometimes snap. Sometimes that is something that has happened to these characters, where they've been rejected by a woman or women, and they become even more mentally unhinged as a result. And you see that with this Robert De Niro character. He becomes even more mentally unhinged. He's driving his cab around. Now, I have to admit at this time that Robert De Niro is excellent in this film. He really is. He really delivers a great performance. He had done some things before this film. He had done Godfather Part 2, which I have to admit I have not seen. But he had also been working with Martin Scorsese at this time, done some Scorsese films, done some other films along with Harvey Keitel as well. But yeah, really delivers a great performance. He would work with Scorsese later in films like Raging Bull and Goodfellas, and does some films even to this day. Though now in a lot of films, see him kind of do his sort of trademark kind of like facial expressions in a way they're quite common. Yeah, that's my Robert De Niro impression right there. But yeah, he does deliver a great performance in this film. And yeah, so he's driving around. He had gotten rejected by this woman. There is sort of a subplot to this film where he starts stalking the politician, and I thought that was kind of unnecessary, that they really didn't need that subplot in this film. But yeah, he does become more and more mentally unhinged. He sees this girl played by Jodie Foster, who is a prostitute, and he meets her at a diner. They talk. She tells the Robert De Niro character that she's working for this pimp who's played by Harvey Keitel, and the Robert De Niro character tells her, not to go back to this guy, stay away from him. And, she kind of doesn't listen to him. And as a result of this, the Travis Bickle character, Robert De Niro, gets very angry and then, purchases a gun. He shaves his head. He gets a mohawk, goes to like a gun salesman. And the scene where he goes to, kind of the gun salesman or like shaves his head is very similar to what you have in Breaking Bad, I think. In fact, even the scene where he goes to see the gun salesman to purchase the gun is very similar to the one where Walter White purchases the gun in Breaking Bad. It's a very similar scene that you have going on there. But then in the end, it sort of accumulates in a scene where the Robert De Niro character goes to where the Harvey Keitel pimp character is, and he shoots up the place, ends up shooting the Harvey Keitel character along with a couple other individuals. And altogether, I think 4 people are shot in this film, although for some reason it kind of seems like more, just because the film's like so gritty and has that, Technicolor kind of look and a dirty kind of feel to it. But yeah, it's only like about, 3 or 4 people shot in the whole film. It's nowhere near compared to what you have in a film like Terminator 2, where you have like 122 people getting shot. But it just feels different in this film. Like I said, just because of the atmosphere and the way it feels, that gritty kind of Technicolor look and that dirtiness, and really enhances this film quite a bit. That kind of gritty Technicolor look enhances films like this. Also enhances horror films as well. But yeah, some other interesting things going on as the character Travis Bickle does start to kind of, become more unhinged. He does go see this character that they call the Wizard, and that character is played by Peter Boyle. And the Travis Bickle, Robert De Niro character tells him, look, I think I'm gonna snap. I'm really kind of losing it here. And the Peter Boyle characters, that kind of guy's really like been around the block a few times. Really has a lot of wisdom. He's been a cab driver for a long time. Sort of like a Han Solo kind of character, as opposed to that like wide-eyed, innocent kind of Luke Skywalker character. Sort of have that. And, it gives them some advice, but ultimately it doesn't really end up working. And like I said, all that violence happens at the end. Ultimately, the Jodie Foster character ends up moving back home, getting back into school again. But the Robert De Niro character, after he shoots the 3 individuals at the end of the film, is kind of looked upon as like a hero because those guys were gangsters. And that's definitely what you could say about his character. He's kind of a 1970s anti-hero. And that was kind of becoming popular in the 1970s, where you would have these sort of anti-hero kind of characters like Dirty Harry and all that, and then, Travis Bickle and Taxi Driver, kind of like an anti-hero, not your straight-laced kind of, Captain America or Superman kind of hero, but more of a edgy, kind of rough kind of a hero, and that's certainly what this character is. But, yeah, and then, a year later, I think things would kind of change where, you would have Star Wars come out, and then you would have, Luke Skywalker, who was sort of a return to the traditional hero again. But, then people got really interested in Star Wars type movies, science fiction, fantasy, space opera. But, yeah, so, all in all, it was definitely a movie worth checking out. Definitely a great film. There's a lot going on in this film. It's definitely an excellent character study. In fact, Robert De Niro actually, not too long ago, maybe like 10 years ago or so, wanted to do a sequel to this film. And the writer said, no, I don't want to write a sequel to this film. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because this Travis Bickle character would have been dead within a year. You can't do a sequel to a movie like this. If we were to do a sequel to a movie such as this, we would have had to have had done that sequel back in the 70s, shortly after this film came out. And that's true, you would have, because the character was definitely unhinged. The character would have been dead within a year. You couldn't do a sequel just 10 years ago. But, yeah, so, like I said, if you haven't, seen this film, I do recommend it. It is on, I think, like, cable channels a lot. You'll see it come on. Like I said, Jodie Foster is in the film as well. And Jodie Foster, really, I would have to say, was a lot different in this film. She was a completely different person, I think, when she was a teenager. She really seemed a lot different from when she got older. Yeah, she delivers a great performance in this film as well. So, yeah, if you haven't seen it, like I said, it does appear on, cable TV quite a bit. So you can probably catch it sometime. You'll see it from time to time. But, yeah, that's all I have right now. If you watched this video, again, as always, I do thank you for watching. Have a great night.